Hey, my name is Rutger. I'm the founder of Forex Fundamentals. And in this quick onboarding, I'll walk you through how to maximize the platform, and I'll show you a clear understanding of how it was designed and how it can best work for you. My focus is to get you up to speed as fast as possible so you know exactly what to do next and how to make the most out of this experience. So if you trade fundamentals, you already know the problem that fundamental data is scattered across many different pages, 10 different tabs, 10 different sources, and that just doesn't work. You waste time jumping between sites instead of actually analyzing what is going on. And even when you do have all the time, you hit decision fatigue. And it's too many data points, no clear signal, and Forex Fundamentals fixes that because now you have everything in one place, structured in a way that tells you what matters right now. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the logic well enough to build one high conviction trade a week so you can be profitable just by using Forex Fundamentals. So what is then the core idea of Forex Fundamentals? Well, every trade has to answer 3 questions. Question 1, which currency is strong? Question 2, which currency is weak? And question 3 is the market actually ready to act on it right now? And every feature on the platform exists to answer one of those 3 questions. Once you see the platform through that lens, in front of our eyes we have the master scoreboard. Here you will find, reading from left to right, all of the currency pairs in the G10 economy and their given final score. This final score is composed of many different data points, all combined into one relative to each other, so you see in one view which is the strongest currency pair and which is the weakest currency pair. We also have the table view. In the table view, you can filter on most bullish or most bearish, and you'll see some other data points as well. And the final bias, so you know exactly which ones are bullish and which ones are bearish and how to filter them in pair. You can do this by hitting the filter button. So this 10-second overview shows you which currencies are strong and which currencies are weak right now, and this is your starting point for every session. But don't trade just of this alone, because we always look for alignment in fundamental analysis. That is when you go to the intrinsic analysis to see on currency specific level which ones are the most bullish and which ones are the most bearish in itself, not against the. It's also very interesting to look at the COT report to see week on week how institutions and hedge funds are positioned in the futures market. So this data gets released every week. And for example, we can see for this week, there was a 14.2% increase of open interest. So that means the dollar is getting traded more. And also we can see, for example, the longs and shorts over time, and that actually the net positioning is becoming smaller. And more favorable towards longs. So then, Rutger, what's moving the markets? Well, first of all, we want to check out the calendar feature, because here you can filter for all the low, medium, and high impact news events, and you can filter for every single currency. We also have a notification feature, so I would recommend turn on all notifications for high impact news events, and you will always be notified on time what is actually moving the markets. Also, when you click an event, you'll be able to see on the right side the historical data, the forecast, and more about the event and the eventual impact before but also after the release for every pair that is being impacted by this news event. And in the news feed, which is one of my favorite features, we filter all relevant news for all the currencies and commodities. So for example, you can click an article, you will get the key takeaways, and you will even have a link to the article so you can read more in depth when you want to know more. But this is just a very good filter, filtering out all the noise and only putting in the relevant articles so you have everything in one place. And if you want to, for example, read more about, let's say, the pound, you get from all the different news outlets, the pound articles, and if they are bullish or bearish with the key takeaways, so you actually know what is going on. In the risk sentiment, you will see the overall risk sentiment in the markets. So it tells you which currencies the markets wants to buy and sell regardless of their individual story. And this is also a critical filter before entering any trade. So we have the risk off currencies, we have the risk on currencies, and some perform better in a certain regime, in either risk on or risk off. So it's always good to check on this and what the actual sentiment is. So for example, now it would be more favorable to trade some risk on pairs like AED/JPY or NZD Swiss. Okay, so now we know this, but then how do I turn this into a trade? Well, we can go into the cross pair analysis. You can do this by clicking any pair from the currency dashboard. You get linked to the cross pair analysis where you get a narrative for every single pair, the cross pair score, and also compared it to the price action, the most recent articles, and the Confluence checklist. And the Confluence checklist is very, very important because all of the features we just mentioned are getting measured in the Confluence checklist. So you can check multiple pairs and which of those are aligning the most. So we have, of course, the primary factors like the intrinsic strength, the external drivers, the new sentiment, and in this case, the risk on sentiment, when especially for pairs like Canadian dollar and the Swiss, they're both sensitive to the risk sentiment. And then we have the secondary factors like is it a carry trade, the COT reports, and the seasonality. Once you know I want to trade this pair, or you want to say, for example, I want to trade multiple pairs, you can also go into the correlations. So let's say you want to trade 2 Swiss pairs. It's important that you check, okay, if I want to trade CAD Swiss, how does that compare to, for example, another Swiss pair, right? So let's press Swiss. So CAD Swiss, how does it compare to, for example, GBP Swiss? Well, plus 0.35. That's a safe range to trade both long. And in the seasonality, you'll be able to find all of the seasonalities for every single currency pair. So let's say I want to trade CAD Swiss in April. Well, we track data from the past 10 years. So that means 6 out of the 10 past years in April were a bullish month for CAD Swiss. So this is very handy to add as like an extra Confluence layer, just like we do for every other Confluence. And then if we have everything together, we can get to one high conviction trade every week. And again, if we do this with a high win rate, you can be profitable just by using Forex fundamentals. So how do the 9 features come together on a typical Sunday or on a typical trading day? Step 1, open the scoreboard. Here you'll find the extremes for both the most bullish pair or the most bearish pair. Step 2, read the intrinsic analysis. So if I want to trade, for example, dollar shorts, okay, why is the dollar short? And then later, how can I best match that to a strong currency? Step 3, check the COT reports. So is the COT for the dollar aligning? Well, institutions are 56% short, so that means there is institutional downward pressure on the dollar, so that actually aligns. Step 4, check the risk sentiment. So in the risk sentiment, we can see the overall regime. We know the dollar is kind of a safe haven, but also kind of lost its safe haven status in more recent years. But in this case, it's not a problem. Step 5, scan the calendar. Are there any obstacles this week that we have to take into account when we are in the trade or before taking any trade? And if so, turn on your notifications so you get notified in time. Step 6, use the cross-pair analysis. So we can compare, for example, the dollar against the Australian dollar or against the New Zealand dollar or the pound. So check which pair is aligning the most in your case. You can also do this by going again in the table, filtering for the dollar, and you'll find all the dollar pairs in one overview with their given scores, new sentiment, and everything. And also from here, you can go into a deeper analysis just by clicking, and you'll be sent to the cross-pair analysis. Step 7 is using the correlations, and step 8 is using the seasonality to have like a final extra confluence for your trade to fully align with the fundamental bias. And that's how you can take one high conviction trade properly built just by using fundamental data without looking at any technicals. Once you start adding technicals, it can be any strategy, you can have even more alignment, but you already have the fundamentals in your back. So this is an extra headwind for you to trade in the right direction. So that's it, guys. And an honest note is that there is, of course, a learning curve here. This is a platform used by traders who are making very serious money trading fundamentals, and they all had to learn and adapt to this data analysis. So watch the per feature video where I go in more detail on every single feature in the platform. And in the workflow videos, I go in depth more also in the workflows on how to actually construct a trade and how to translate it to the chart. Also read the documentation. There's a lot of textual context about every single feature and what we do. Do your due diligence, and that's how you actually get the edge this platform is built to give you. Welcome to Forex Fundamentals, and let's start making profits by trading fundamentals.